Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics. So very recently, Trump has become more agitated than usual and really cranked up his distraction machine. Yet, as far as we can tell from Europe, things seem to be going great for Trump. He's not dead, which I'm sure he's delighted with. He's succeeded in making the Constitution all but irrelevant to him. He's stripping away civic rights and crushing dissenting voices. I mean, you just imagine how secure he's going to be in another year. And yet, he's panicking. Why? Because the US economy is tanking, and sacking the people producing the numbers isn't hiding it. But first, for daily news and politics, please click the subscribe button to stay notified. So Donald Trump has two massive problems right now. The first is that even a large proportion of Republicans think he's covering up over Epstein. Mike Johnson, a senior Trump ally, is now trying to say that Trump was an informant for the FBI against Epstein. What was he an informant for? According to Trump, the Epstein files is a hoax. There's nothing in them. How can Trump have informed the FBI on something he says is a hoax? Trump's in trouble, and his attempts to dig himself out the hole are just getting more ridiculous by the week. But his second problem is the economy. As explained by no end of experts, Trump's economic policies in general and his tariffs policies specifically are not just bad for the global economy and therefore America's customers, but bad for the American economy specifically. He's making doing business in America more expensive at the same time as making American consumers poorer. That combination is terrible for investment. And what's bad for investment is, of course, bad for jobs. Trump's reaction to the beginning of the data showing his mishandling of the economy was to start firing people who were calling out the numbers and replace them with his own toadies. But even if he can hide the official data, it won't stop the reality. So he's looking for a scapegoat. He's choosing the chair of the Fed. He's going to blame the failure to cut interest rates. But the reason interest rates aren't being cut was because Trump stoked inflation with his tariffs. And this is a big problem. See, we've had the same problem in the UK in recent years. It's called stagflation. When economic growth is basically flatlining, but you also have higher than ideal inflation. Now, you don't usually get both of these things at once. You usually get one or the other. A poor economy usually means people aren't spending, which means prices stay low. Whereas if prices are rising, it's usually because people's spending outstrips supplies because they're a bit flush, due to the economy doing well. You're not supposed to get high inflation and low growth at the same time. The Tories inflicted it on the UK, and now we're trying to dig ourselves out of that hole. Trump is sending America into that hole. But the Orange One's desperate need to blame Fed Chair Jerome Powell is confusing, or it should be to Americans. Trump is claiming that Powell is acting too late. Trump sounds alarmed. Well, that means the economy is in trouble, right? Only Trump also claims that the economy is going great. So if the economy is going great, why the alarm? What specifically is Trump alarmed at? Well, the latest jobs data from the Bureau of Labour Statistics shows that there are now more unemployed people in America than there are jobs available. Now, you get this issue cropping up. We have the same issue in the UK and have done for a while. But this is the first time this has happened in the United States for nearly a decade. Apart from, obviously, 2020 with COVID, which was obviously an anomaly that we understand the reasons for. But this raises an awkward question for the US government. Should there be anyone free to ask this awkward question over there in their anti-free speech hellhole? If Trump has eradicated illegal immigration and he's deporting all the illegal immigrant workers, why are there more unemployed Americans than vacancies for the first time since 2017? Hasn't he just freed up a load of jobs? What's going on? But of course, nobody is asking the president this question because, well, first of all, they would never get to ask him another question ever again. And second, they may find themselves getting the John Bolton treatment. But Americans should ask themselves the question, if Trump is clearing up illegal immigration, if there's a crackdown on illegal immigrants in the workplace, if he's stopped any more coming into the country, and he claims all of these things, if he's deporting the ones already in the country, why has there not been a sudden explosion of jobs available for those jobless Americans? Or has there been a big jump up in jobs available, but an even bigger jump up in Americans losing their jobs? Because the ratio of unemployed Americans to jobs vacancies has gone up, and it's gone above 1 for the first time since 2017, which I'm sure is a complete coincidence, was the first year of Trump's first term as president. Now, that means for the first time since Trump became president first time, there are more unemployed than there are jobs available for them. So why have job prospects for Americans gotten worse specifically under Trump when he claims to be tackling what he says is the source of pressure on American workers: illegal immigration and international trade? Something doesn't add up. And Trump is so desperate to avoid anyone thinking about that he's having to crank up his distraction machine to 11. I bet he disappeared from view last week deliberately to provoke rumours about his health, anything to stop people talking about the economy. In fact, Trump is also desperate for people to stop talking about Epstein as well, and yet Trump is talking about Epstein on Truth Social. It's like he'd rather people talk about Epstein than talk about the economy. You can picture a sort of imaginary conversation between Trump and key voters. Trump tells them, drop the Epstein thing, stop talking about it, it's boring, it's a Democrat hoax, right? All right, then we'll talk about the economy. Okay, talk about Epstein. Oh, and if you're interested in the specifics of the American job market right now, there's another little sting in the tail. The ratio of full-time to part-time jobs vacancies is going down. So what vacancies are popping up are increasingly part-time, and as such not going to get an unemployed American back in the black. Unless, of course, they pick up 2 or 3 of them, which is not only less secure than a full-time job, but makes that ratio of unemployed people to vacancies even higher in real terms. You know, if you need multiple jobs to stop a person being unemployed, then each vacancy is not actually really one vacancy, but a fraction of a vacancy. In the UK, the Labour government is trying to tackle the problem of what we call the gig economy. This problem of a lot of workers being reliant on insecure part-time work. In America, it's getting worse. Another thing to mention, and this is crucial for people in Britain to understand as well, and particularly our government, the economic figures in America are not just worse, they're much worse than forecast. However, the United States is not in recession. Economists point out that the reason it's not in recession is because the entire economy has been propped up by the big tech companies. They are continuing to do well. But for anyone who lived through the dot-com boom and bust, we know what can happen there. But the main point I'd make is the US economy is right now staving off recession only because what some people are thinking are inflated values of literally single-figure numbers of massive tech corporations, like fewer than 10 of them. But are those handful of tech companies really putting food on the tables of ordinary Americans? Not so much, at least not everywhere in America, and not really in the key states which concern Republicans. So although the figures are still saying no recession, that's just the macro view. Millions of ordinary Americans are worse off and getting even worse off. This comes back to the Labour government in the UK saying they get that it's not enough for the economic figures to look better, which they do now. If that's all it took, they'd be looking pretty. No, people have to feel it in their pockets, which not enough in the UK do yet. Labour know they can't just point at a graph. They will have dealt with our economic problems only when voters tell them that they have, not Treasury accountants. You know, we've moved on from it's the economy stupid to recognising that the figures mean nothing if people don't feel better off. Trump may or may not care, but Republicans probably ought to think about why the Democrats lost last year. And it's not because Americans think Trump is a genius or that he has some sorcerer's hold over voters. It's because people felt worse off under Biden. And despite efforts to rig the midterms next year, some of those methods involving disenfranchising certain types of voter. But if Republican swing voters feel even worse off now than under Biden, what's going to happen then? Trump is poisoning the economy in a pretty big and unnecessary way. It cannot even be said to be strategic in order to consolidate Power Project 2025 style. He's now panicking because he's not getting the results he thought he'd get, and he's looking to blame others, which is a clear sign that he holds out little hope of things getting better. Like if this was just like a little blip, oh, well, this is just the pain, the necessary pain before the good times roll, he wouldn't be panicking. You know, but for him, it's not about being patient and his genius moves will yield results before the midterms. No, now he's focused on making sure voters blame someone else. But who will they blame? Let me know what you think in the comments below. For more content, you could subscribe to the channel or even join for access to streams and behind the scenes updates. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.